Okay, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're checking in, and welcome to 30 Minutes of Wisdom. Today, oh my gosh, it's springtime. Happy spring. I'm your host, Robin Blake Mascari, and we get together the second and fourth Friday of every month to share wonderful thought leaders with you to support your personal and professional development. And our guest today, oh my goodness, I've been so excited. As soon as I realized I was going to bring back 30 Minutes of Wisdom, she's always first on the list because this woman has changed my life. I met her, over 10 years ago through a mutual contact. I've been able to interview her several times, and I love that she always says yes. But my life has changed because she's come into my life. She is a gift to many. And her wit, her wisdom, her philosophy of Eziosophy that you're going to learn in a few minutes just makes learning fun. And if so many people live a life and make it harder than it needs to be. So she's armed with years of experience in human dynamics. This woman is an amazing student. She's constantly learning, growing, reading, teaching, receiving, and it's just been such a gift to have her in my life all these years. And she helps people live life without struggle. And I love this quote: life is not meant to be a series of to-do lists punctuated by eating and sleeping. She's the author of 5 books and the founder of the Easiosophy philosophy. Don't you love that? And here's her first book. I don't know if it's her first book, but boy, this book has changed my life. And she also puts out a weekly digital newsletter, and I'll put the link in the chat section for everybody. She's also branded herself as Dr. Money. So if any of you are having a challenge with your relationship with money, she has a daily video on her Facebook group, and we'll mention that a little bit. So you can really develop your right relationship with money, and has developed this philosophy called Eziosophy. And our culture is built on what she says false difficulties of making life hard. It doesn't have to be hard. So learning how to distinguish between real suffering, genuine suffering, and ego-driven suffering will make a huge difference. So I am really excited to share this amazing resource with you, who's filled with humor, passion, peace, and so we can all stop having heart attacks. Okay. Welcome, Ann Gillis, Sermons Gillis, my dear. Welcome, welcome.
Good morning. I listen to that and it's like, oh my gosh, I sound like a goddess or something. And maybe we all are goddesses, but of course, one of the things that we have to do that makes it easier immediately is to forgive ourselves when we don't live up to our ideals, to hold ourselves up to the best, but not to perfection.
The best, but not perfection. Okay, well, I think we need to define what this philosophy is that you created. So if you could help everyone understand, what is Eziosophy?
Okay, well, I'm going to give it a 2-prong approach. One is that Eziosophy is the art and wisdom of easy, or at least easier living. It's about not making conscious efforting to get something done. It's not about, it's the difference between aggression and being assertive is the difference between doing things in our lives and then trying to force things to go in our lives, to go, oh gosh, and it makes it heavy, and life becomes a burden. So it's lifting the burden. Excuse me, it's too early for me to talk, maybe. But we want to accomplish things with ease and also not over accomplish, because often what we do is that we define ourselves by how much we do, and we just do all the time, and there's never an end to the to-do list. We never take a break, we never relax, and so we do have to have that balance. So it's getting things done without efforting, but it's also about our emotional and psychological well-being, that we can live and rest in the moment in ease.
I love it. Our culture has ingrained in us that it's good to work hard, and people bought into that. And so they get, pats on the back for working hard. And it's not the best way to get things done, is it?
No, as a matter of fact, I saw a quote this morning on an affirmations page, and it says, if you work hard for 6 months, then you can really relax. It'll pay off. And I'm thinking that's couched in those terms. It sets the mind up for, okay, if you really are miserable for 6 months, then we'll let you off and you can have some fun after 6 months. Because any of you that have ever bought into that and worked really, really hard for X amount of time, it usually didn't pay off unless maybe you were building a house out of brick and you had to put brick by brick and you did have a big wall at the end of 6 months. But generally, working hard, it's just a format that's not very effective. Working easy is a much better way to work.
When you came into my life, it was like I felt myself go through this relax breath of fresh air. And you have this amazing term called being a heartaholic. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, a heartaholic is somebody who makes life hard, who suffers about it, and believes that life can never and will never change. Heartaholic. Now, one of the ways we can tell when we're having a heart attack, which is an attack of difficulty, not H-E-A-R-T, but H-A-R-D, a heart attack, is our breath. And so when we go, we can tell that we're in the middle of a heart attack. That is ego. That is an ego-driven attack there. And often what we do is that we surround we're surround sound with this heart attack. And what it does is it's a wall that keep other people away from us, because they say, oh, don't let, somebody said, oh, don't let ask Ann to do it. You know, she's so overburdened that if you just would touch her, she would fall over. So we build this wall of suffering and protection so that nobody will ask us to do anything. And actually one of the Easiosophy vows is I will say no. It's learning how to say no to the things that we need to say no to, so that we're fully in charge of our lives and we can say yes when we really mean it. When we say yes, when we really need to say no, our lives start falling apart and the burden just builds and builds, and then we become martyrs.
Yeah, I was having so much fun reviewing the book this morning and recently, and going into the vows. And I remember Stephen Covey saying, it's easy to say no when you have a bigger yes inside. And so one of the vows being the vow of learning to say no, because our culture, again, rewards people that always say yes. And so we've been kind of misprogrammed into what really, really works. I know that your little sayings live in my head all the time. And I just, oh my God, I'm being hard on things. So,
well, let me tell you, I think it would be a good time to bring this home with a song.
I love it. I love it.
And I'm going to screen share, and that if those that are here would like to sing along, of course, with it muted, I think that you'll recognize the tune. So let me get this screen share going.
It's another effect you have on me. I noticed that I start singing a lot, which is a really wonderful thing. Oh, to the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Right. Let's see. Let me get this.
You got it.
Slide. Yeah, I want to do the whole thing.
There you go.
So as you can hear, I'm a little crusty this morning with my throat. So excuse me. I am a singer. However, everyone may not agree with how great I sing, but I believe that I think that we should all sing regardless of how great we sing.
Great.
Oops, I accidentally, I touched the screen. Let's see.
There you go.
I wake up in the morning and I think that life is hard, and I sigh and roll my eyes back
as I herd into the yard.
I think about the weather and I go into a snit. My mind thinks life is hard. Life is hard as a belief. Life is hard as a belief. Life is hard
as a belief.
It's time to change my mind. You may want to mute, Robin, because it cuts my voice out when you sing, so that little bit ahead of you. Okay.
Oh, that was fancy.
I go into the bathroom and I wince like I'm in pain when I look into the mirror and review the weight I've gained. Then I step into my office and I think that I have failed. My mind keeps marching.
Moving on.
Life is hard as a belief. Life is hard as a belief. Life is hard as a belief. It's time to change my mind. I'm choosing to be free of all the problems I have made. I will choose to put my mind on things that really make me sane. I'll walk easy in my gardens and spread ease upon my mind. My life is going to change. I know my struggle is a habit. I know my burdens are like rabbits. They multiply with mind gymnastics. That's how I prove life's hard. My mind has gained its sanity. I know that I have changed. I have shed my mental burdens and the light of life it came. I am walking in the easy and my life is never hard. Life's easy call flows on. My life, it is easy. My life, it is easy. My life, it is easy. The truth has set me free. Bum, 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 bum.
All right, that was fabulous. So there's lots of ways we make life hard. So what are some of that? I love that song. I haven't had that one in a long time. So what are some of the forms of suffering that we live in, the things we make hard?
Okay, well, I'm going to screen share again. Let's see if I can open it up. That's not what I want to do. You are screen sharing. Well, maybe I can't get that. Maybe I can't get back to it. But some of the ways that we suffer are through seriousness. And we have what I call terminal seriousness. When we grow up, we think that when we're adults, we should be very serious. Now, the idea of ease is beginning to permeate the culture, I believe, and I can look at the changes that have happened in my lifetime. For example, I used to go into a bank, and when I went into a bank, it was like you went into this somber place and everybody was very, very quiet. It was almost like a funeral home. And that was the way a lot of businesses were conducted. You go into a church, it was like a funeral home. You go into a bank, it's like a funeral home. You go into a library, it was like a funeral home. And so I can remember walking the streets of New York when I was young, and people were walking like, it's like, boom, 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 boom. This is so serious. I guess maybe people are angry when they're cold. I don't know. But it's this seriousness that we have. And so I don't have the words to it, but I'll just give you a few of the lyrics, and that is, joy to the world, the time has come to have a little fun. We frowned and frowned, our smiles are upside down. We've been too serious, we've been too serious, we've been too serious. We came to earth to come alive and laugh and sing and dance. We brought our light to bring delight and not be serious. Oh no, and not be serious. Oh no, and not be serious.
That's so true. I mean, sometimes I walk around and I look at people and I just want to give them the big tickle, It's like
like, lighten up, please.
I know.
It's like, lighten up, please. And so that brings me into the second thing that's an obstacle, and that is that we have a habit of suffering about things. We have a habit of suffering in a certain way. For example, anger or being irritated all the time we have a habit of being irritated, or we have the habit of being sad. And if you look at your life, you'll notice that you have a predominant habit of your bad feeling. And this is the way that we present ourselves in our lives all the time. So we have to identify, what is my habit of suffering? How do I suffer? Because usually if I'm sad, I'm probably not sad. Maybe I'm covering something up, but it's just something I probably learned from my family. I either decided to have their predominant way of suffering or to go in a different direction based on theirs. I'm never going to be angry all the time, so I'm scared all the time. You know, we have our permanent suffering habit that we have to identify and overcome. And of course, we don't have enough time to do that today, but just in identifying and speaking this and naming this, it may give people some idea what their suffering habit is. I have more than one, and one of mine is feeling like a powerless little waif, a little victim, and just a little nobody. And I can see myself when I catch myself, and I can see it in relationship with other people. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm doing my habit suffering. And it's amazing how when I identify it, when I'm aware of it, it's like I can just pop out of it. It's like, what do you mean? This is crazy. This is just a filter you're looking through, and this is not true. And so I don't know that we can stop these habits of suffering forever, but I do know that when we become aware of them, that we can end the suffering. And another thing is that when we can't end what is going on in terms of our habitual suffering, or this leads me to the third one, and that is what I call a triggered suffering. And that is that we're triggered into a previous traumatic event, and that's a triggered kind of suffering that we have. And when we have that kind of suffering, what we need to do often is get therapy or talk it out, write it out, work with ourselves on that. And also, we need to be sure to apply compassion, because when we are in a habitual, our habit suffering, we need a kick in the butt. But when we're in our triggered suffering, we need compassion. We need to have someone hold our hand, and we need to be able to cry on somebody's shoulder. So it's really important that we differentiate what kind of suffering that we're in. And that leads to the final kind of suffering, and that's genuine suffering. Genuine suffering is because there's a real event in our current lives in which there's a deep loss. Let's say that your partner dies, your mother dies, your dog dies that you've had for 15 years. Then we're going to suffer. We will suffer. There's nobody that's immune from that. Buddha said, he says, suffering is not necessary, but we will suffer because we will get attached to things. And the things and the people we get attached to, when we lose them, we will suffer. So even Buddha acknowledges that aspect of human suffering. And that is when we lose something that is very a part of our lives, then we will suffer.
You said something really, really important. It's the first thing we have to have is the awareness of the suffering habit. And sometimes we're so close to it, we can't see it. So would you recommend that people maybe ask people that are close to them, what do you see as my habitual suffering habit? Or
well, you know what, let me give you a little exercise that might help us do that. Let's imagine that we're riding down the road and we have an appointment, and our cell phone is dead. We don't have any way to contact them. And we've got plenty of time. It's a 10-minute drive. To get there, we've given ourselves 25 minutes so that we can really get there on time. But we come upon a slowdown, and we think, well, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But the slower it gets, slower and slower, and the minutes start ticking away, and we look at our clock, and 5 minutes has gone by, 10 minutes has gone by, 15 minutes has gone by. We know there's no way that we can make it, and we're sitting there, either agitated, afraid, angry. What would you feel? Would you feel afraid? You can't call. They will not know why you're not showing up. You can't let anybody know. You're stuck on the freeway or something. There's cars on both sides. You cannot move. You cannot get there. What do you feel? For me, I would probably be afraid. I would be thinking, what are people going to think of me? I'm really letting them down. Other people might be, these people on the internet, why don't they let me go? Blah, 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 blah. So probably what you're feeling is your habitual suffering. Can you
Mm.
identify how you would feel, Robin, if you were in that
Well, the first
situation?
thing that came to me was frustrated because
Okay,
I don't have my phone. I'm out of control.
right.
I'm frustrated.
Okay, so that may be your way of handling it. That's a clue. Usually that's our habit. Everybody's got a bad habit, so don't think, oh, I'm a bad person because I got a bad habit. No, everybody has got it. We are human. Helena Prodrovna Blavatsky said that we can all be so expanded and so enlightened and so amazing, and then somebody steps on our corn and watch out. And so that means that we all have that aspect of contraction and humanness, and we have to be able to allow that to be, because it just is.
It happens. Yeah, life happens. Okay, so we want to raise our awareness of what our habits are, because until we're aware, we can't change anything. And I love the way you distinguish between the times where we need compassion. That's so beautiful because it happens to everyone. There is suffering and we need compassion. And then there's other times where we need a kick in the butt. And
Exactly.
that's a good friend, isn't it? When they just kind of, give you that little, excuse me, I think you might want to say that another way, or how do we best support each other in overcoming and lightening up? Because, when I started doing this business, I kept saying, I've never had this much fun. And honestly, I've never been this successful either. So
Yeah.
there's a clue there,
Yeah. Well, so the question again is, how do we support other people?
Yeah.
The best way to support other people, William James, the famous psychologist, said that people work harder for praises than for raises. We really, and I learned that, I had 3 years of training as a transactional analyst. And what we learned was that when we support people by showing them love and appreciation, that they move ahead. When I say we need a kick in the butt, that's usually from ourselves. We need it from ourselves. If people will love us, compliment us, appreciate us, give us gratitude, we get the strength to face our shadows. When
Mm.
we're broken down and we think we're not okay and so forth, we can't face our shadow because we're already down and we think, man, I'm so bad, I can't look at anything else. It's going to bring me down. So we get stuck in not being able to move. But when people say, I love you, you're great, you're appreciated, and you think, I can face anything. I can face the thing that's really blocking me. And so we want to offer support and love to people and then allow them to be able to turn to their shadow and to their foibles and to be able to correct them themselves. It's not easy to do that all the time because we love to get in each other's business. I mean, I think it's somewhat natural. I mean, you know me, Robin, and I'm telling Robin yesterday, well, I just want to be sure you take care of yourself, So, but it's not always easy. But if we think back on it and we think about some of our greatest times, they're usually with somebody behind us saying, you can do it. I love you. I love you. You can make it happen.
Yeah, it's just this morning I was in the shower thinking about a situation I'm involved in and how someone, wasn't behaving the way I wanted and how I wanted to bring it to their attention. I went, that's not going to give me what I want or what's affirming to them. So I want to acknowledge, what I do appreciate about them versus pointing out what I don't like. And I watched myself go through this little process in the shower this morning because we have a big family gathering coming up this weekend, and I like being honest, but I want to be honest in a supportive way. And so focusing on what we want more of or what we like, we'll get more of that versus pointing out what we don't like. And the praise thing. And I love that quote. People work harder for praises than raises. And I always give a Stephen Covey quote on this one. I've done it on the calls recently, is the deepest need of the human soul is to be appreciated, acknowledged, affirmed, and understood.
Absolutely.
It's just so amazing. Okay, so what are some of the common obstacles you see to having ease? And I love it's easy. And how can we actually counteract them?
Well, we've been talking about those, that is being serious, being able to identify ego, struggle, and suffering. Those are really the main blocks that we have: being serious at the habit of suffering, overcoming the habit of suffering, and then there's always the general things that we can do for ourselves. And I'll give an example, and that is if I think I mentioned this to you, Robin, and that is that if we were to fill a bucket and somebody says, well, how much do you want in the bucket? So you look at the bucket and you say, oh, I want about this much, which is halfway full. Well, when we fill water in it, we can't just fill up this little straight line of water. The whole bucket has to be full. And so in terms of making our lives easier and not efforting and not buying into the stress and strain, we really have to fill the whole bucket of well-being up so that we stand in the ground of well-being when we confront these things. And so taking care of ourselves and in the general way that we take care of ourselves will allow us to move forward. It is I want to say it is our intuition. I want to go back and make another point, and that is that when we're talking about, I say the best thing to do when we want to support people is to love and appreciate them. There are exceptions to everything that I say. Not anything is across the board always the answer. For example, I have been with people sometimes and I say, I'm not going to say this, I'm not going to say this, and something in me just says it. It's like it's the same thing like getting up in the morning. I'm not gonna get up, "Oh, I'm so sleepy, I'm just gonna lay here and relax." And all of a sudden I'm out of bed. I'm thinking, "What was it in that moment that drove me out of bed?" And we all have these intuitive urges that may be, we'll say something that is braver than what we would normally say because we're trying to please people, and we'll just say it. And I'll hear myself ask somebody something or do something I normally wouldn't do, and I think that there's some kind of imperative that often calls us to speak to people about their highest good, but that comes from our highest good. It's not coming from a should. It's like you could discern this morning when you were thinking about telling somebody something, you could discern that the way that you probably were thinking about telling them wasn't for their highest good, and you wanted to come to a better way of having that happen. And so I just want to mention that everything has an opposite. Every action we have in general, this is the best way to go, but there is an exception to everything, and that's where our intuition comes in. We have to be in touch with our intuition and the quietness so that that which is higher, that which is better can take over in that moment. Often
Mm,
it's the point of surrender when we're saying, I don't know, but I'm open. And sometimes it means saying nothing, but as I'm saying at other times, something will almost speak through us. We know when that happens because after we finish, somebody says, "That was amazing. What did you say?" And you said, "I couldn't tell you if my life depended on it." I
uh,
have no idea what I just said.
yeah, and so it comes through you. Well, I was reviewing the Eziosophy vows, and these are vows for ourself that, when we work on ourself first, and I'm doing several talks coming up on leadership, and a lot of people don't think about personal leadership before they think about organizational leadership, and these vows are so beautiful. So, like you just talked about, that quiet, creating that sacred space. I'll remain silent and listen. There's such great wisdom in here. I love this, and it's
Thank
so
you.
simple, and I love that part too. And so, are there any of the
Yeah.
vows? Because we have just another quick minute. That you want to finish up with. Any final comments before we close our
Yes.
30 minutes?
Yes, one of the vows is I will not criticize others. Now,
Mm.
this usually when we get conscious and we get spiritually awakened and we get a little bit of sense, we don't outwardly criticize people. Maybe we will gossip for a minute with our best friend, but I mean, we will just not do it outwardly. But what we will do is do it inside. We will criticize, have this conversation a lot of times with people we don't even know because we read something on Facebook that we disagree with, and we have a conversation in our head for 30 minutes with this person we've never heard because we disagree with them, or how could they think that? That's the craziest thing. So it's this internal criticism that we have with other people that we need to rein in.
Mm.
Um, and, even if I do not know where they are coming from, I have not walked in their shoes. I do not understand. I want to experience the commonality of love. It's stopping that internal dialogue of criticism that takes criticism to the next level. As I'm saying, first level is that we criticize people externally. How could they do that? The second level, when we get past doing that, is internally. What are we saying about other people in our mind? Can we turn that around? Because when we are upset and criticizing other people, it's because something in us is wounded. We can't face it, and we're looking to them to project our pain on too.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we're at the bottom of our 30
Yeah, okay,
minutes.
that's good.
It went so fast. I just want to make sure people know that you are a coach. You have a website, andgillis.com. You
Yeah.
have an amazing newsletter, and the link is in the chat. And you also have Dr. Money. So your prosperity affirmations on Facebook. So there's lots of ways to tap into the wisdom and joy and wit of
Yeah,
Anne.
it's called Abundance Affirmations, and then I brand myself as Dr. Money. So there's two Abundance Affirmations page, but mine is the one with it has a tree with money on it. That's the Abundance Affirmations page.
Okay, so I'm going to put that, and I'll put tree with money. So
Abundance
that's
Affirmations is the name of the Dr. Money page.
okay.
And the Easy Secret is my Facebook page, the Easy Secret. And but if you give a link to my last newsletter where they can sign up, they can find that information in that last newsletter.
Okay, so I hope everyone grabs that. And we'll put it in our next newsletter, so all those links are there, because you're prolific and your newsletters are amazing. That's a huge piece of work you put out. It is a great service for people, and you're so transparent about who you are, what your experiences are, because you've been through a lot lately, and you share so beautifully. So at this time, we're going to complete our recorded section, and then we're going to open up for questions for a few minutes. So we will complete right now. So thank you. I'm going to stop the recording. Okay.